Hello, welcome to Cypress Automation. This is Sharful. Today we're going to learn Cypress Locator. It means how you are going to locate any web element through Cypress. Or in a Cypress scripting, you need to locate a web element to do your automation. How you are going to locate that. We know in terms of Selenium, if you're familiar with Selenium, we know there is a different types of locator we can use to locate any web element. Say example XPath, CSS Selector, name, ID, link text, partial link text, and so on. But in Cypress, we don't have that many options. Let's do some practical example, and we'll have a better clear idea. So in Cypress, since Cypress is based on JavaScript, so it is very limited in terms of the locator. It's just limited to CSS Selector. CSS Selector is the only locator or only option to locate any web element in Cypress. So it means here is a the attribute. I'm pretty sure that if you are familiar with the automation world, you know the attribute or property of any web element. So if you have any web element, so example, this is our page, and then you have to find any web element to do some action. So example, you need to click on this button. So you have to first identify where this button to using some of its property. So how you can do this? Right click, inspect, and then you can see it has some of the properties like ID, one of the property, right? So we can use ID, and the value of ID is open window. So we can use this value of ID to create a CSS selector so that we can identify this web element and perform some action, so like click and so on. So here so those are called attribute or web element property. So example, the attribute or property say ID. If you have an ID, to create a CSS selector, all you have to add at the beginning hash sign, then the value of your ID. The value of the the property of ID. So in this case over here, it's the value of ID is open window. So if we want to create a CSS selector for this element, element, it will be hash sign open window, right? So because the value of ID is the open window, so this will be the format. And there is an optional format also you can add at the beginning of the tag name. So tag name hash sign value of your ID. So what's the tag name? If you go here again, your tag name is button. So this is a tag name right at the beginning of the bracket started is called tag name. So this is the HTML tag name. So your tag name is a button. So you can add tag name at the beginning with your ID attribute. Similarly, if you have a class name, and then you can if you have a class name, to create a CSS selector, you have to start with a dot and value of your class name. Same thing if you say, let's go I would say radio button. So let's select the radio button, see what's the property. Here it has a class, but it's a very common class. Maybe something else, some other element we can select with a class. I'm not sure that what other element have a class property, but you will see. Let's see, I'm not sure that how about this one, class. Okay, here maybe you can use this one. Yes, so you have a class property over here. If here is a one tips, if you have a ID and class both property in your HTML code for that specific element, my preference always prefer to use the ID other than class, because class have a chance to have a duplicate used to duplicate times, or multiple times, but ID is mostly it's a unique attribute for HTML world. Okay, so that's my, so anyways, so if you use class, you can use this class. Okay, you can use this so sometimes you don't have to use all of them. If the class is pretty big, maybe it's partial, you can use. And then so you just need to add dot at the beginning, and then the value of your class name. And similarly, the optional CSS selectors, you can add at the beginning the tag name of that class. Now you can create CSS selector using any attribute. So if you have a you can use either similar like ID or class name or other attribute you have. You can use those attributes to create your own CSS selector. The formula or syntax is that your tag name, that it start with the tag name, then bracket, then attribute, whatever the attribute you are putting up there, equals to value of that attribute within a double quotation, and close your bracket. So this is the formula. Okay, so let's see if I go to here again, and I want to select, say example, I want to select one of the attributes. So how about this one, radio? Let's radio 2. So radio 2, let's select the radio 2. So again, is the element. Okay, radio 2. Here, this is the related HTML code that reflect the radio 2 button. So here you can see it has tag name is input, it has one value is radio 2, and it has a name attribute radio button, class attribute radio button, and type is radio. We're going to, so if you familiar with the radio button in automation world, you will see there's some of the attribute, it's very common. Say name. If you see for radio 1, this is the HTML code for radio 1. You can see the name, it's radio button is the same, it's radio button. Class is same. So since all the radio button have the common attribute, it's not wise to use those attribute, the common one, because if you use the common one, it will always find out the first one, and it will select the first one even though you want to select the third one. So in that case, we can create our own CSS selector using unique attribute, which is the only one unique. You can see the value attribute. Value attribute, it has a like radio 1, and radio for the radio 2 is the radio 2. So this is the one of the unique. So if we want to create a unique attribute CSS selector using value, using the value attribute. So value attributes, its value is radio 2, and its tag name is input. Okay, so let's copy the value, and we know the tag name is input. So if I want to create in a CSS selector following these formulas, it will be tag name. So what would be the tag? So tag name, it's input, attribute equals to value equals to the value of value is radio 2. Okay, let's do in our we'll come back on this rest of this in our coding. So sorry, so here is the page. So I hope that you know about this Mocha format, right? The describe function and then it function inside this. If you don't, please watch my previous lecture so that you get a clear idea how this code is comes, what is Mocha format, so what is the describe function does, and what is the it block does. So anyways, this is my test cases, actual test cases, and this describe block is used for the suit, right? So inside over here, I visit the site. This is the URL of the site, and then I will say cy. So cy is the command, is the Cypress command. We'll have a separate video for Cypress command, but just for now, understand the cy is the Cypress command. Say visit is also another Cypress command to visit your URL, any website. And here is a to find any element from websites. Cypress, their command is get. It's a cy.get, and then where's the element? So then you have to provide the locator of that element. So what's the locator? So locator have to be in single quotation, and then we're making our attribute following this rule, right? Following this rule. So tag name, what's the tag name? So tag name, it's input. I know this tag name is input, right? This is the tag name, and the value is attribute, and radio 2 is the value, right? So let's go. So tag name, we're going to type input, and then the bracket, right? If you follow this, right, the bracket, and then attribute equals to the you have to type the name of the attribute. So here, and then what's the attribute name? It's called value, and then equals to, and then the value of attribute value inside the double quote, which is the radio 2, right? So that's the CSS selector. So we create our own CSS selector following the syntax, standard syntax for CSS selector, right? And then what do you want to do? You want to select it, or you can say click will enable to select that radio button. So we can call, there is a function is called click function. There is a function is called the check function in Cypress. Check function. So check function will check off some radio button, or some if there is any other type of checkbox, like checkbox. Okay, so it will be checked. So it will be select over here similarly, right? Radio button. So that's the pretty much way we can create your own CSS selector to get any web element. So let's save it and run it. So to run it, I hope that you know the command. Okay, so let's run it. Open in new terminal, and then for the running your test cases in test runner, this is your command. And it's if you don't know, please watch my previous lecture. So hit enter. Okay, the test runner is opening. Here is our spec or test file, and we can run on Chrome, we can run any other browser or Electron. Let's run on Electron for now. Select it, click that test cases, so it will open on a window. Here we go. So it's visiting the side. You can see on the right side is the output, and the left side your test script. And then it's supposed to select, and then the next script we said get this radio, this element, and then check. So it's, if you see this, it's radio 2, it's already selected or checked, right? So this is also the beauty of the test runner. You can debug each and every line of your script. So if you hover over your script over here, and that get this element, you'll see it's on the right side. It shows this this for this line it's already selected this button, and then if you see check, the check function, it's already checked this button. You see. So this is one of the very beauty of the test runner, as well as it give you some before after features too. So what was the before, and then after is execute that code, what is the after. So and other way, that's the our intention is to see that how we can create CSS selector by your own. Okay, so let's minimize or close this window. Okay, so we'll use this test runner just for now. Okay, now next is let's go And also one more thing is that you can use test runner to find out your element, to find the your locator also. We'll see one of the example. Okay, so let's get back to our what file. Where is the, okay, here. So we saw this part, right? Example. The next is you can travel. Sometimes you can travel, to find your element from parent to child using a tag name. So we all know all of the HTML code, right? All of the HTML line for element, it has a started with the tag name. But you will see some of the tag name, it's some of the line they have their parents. So like example over here, you can see this is this div. Under this div, you can open this div, and then you will see under this div there is a more div line, right? More line, like this one, radio 2, radio 1, right? Radio 3, and another one, radio 3. All are the child of this div class. So this is the parent and those are the child, right? Especially these three are the sibling. So sometimes you need to travel from your parents to child to uniquely identify any one of the element. If that case, in such case you can follow traveling from parents to child using the only tag name. That sometimes work. So what would be that time your parent tag name is like div, and you one of the you targeted HTML or element, it's like over here it's the input. So your formula is parents tag name, then there will be space, and then child's tag name. So if your parents tag name is div and then your child tag name is input, so it would be div space. Make sure you keep the space, then your targeted elements tag name, which is input. Or like here is example, I put a form and then there's a space, then input. Okay, that's another way to create CSS selector when you are traveling from parent to child using a tag name. Okay, so that's the few way you can do. The another way, it's you can get your locator, your CSS selector, using your test runner. Let's see this. The first, and when we're going to use, we'll see it. So let's see one of the scenario in our this practice page. So codeinboxautomationlab.com/practice. So over here, one of the, what if we're going to select this search box and then we'll type over here automation. Okay, we'll type this automation. So to write something over in search box, we have to find this search box first. We have to select it, locate it. So how we can locate it? Let's see. Spy this. Okay, so this is the HTML code. This is the HTML code, right? So here we have a class. I can see there's an attribute, it's called class, so we can use class. Okay, let's see what happened if you use class over here. Okay, and there is also, by the way, a lot of people they use ChroPath. There is a third-party tools that help you. It's an add-on on Chrome browser. Now it works with also Firefox. So you can find ChroPath and you can install it, and then you can use this tool also help you to find the CSS selector. But it's not always use. If you see CSS selector is started from the very top, body page is too long, don't use that. Okay, that time you create your own CSS selector. That's why you have to know from the scratch how you can create your own CSS selector, because the tools will not give you always 100% the right result. Or also you never know, these tools can be discontinuous from tomorrow. So don't be dependent on any specific tool. It's good to know how to create it by your own. So anyways, let's get back to here. So we are going to use the class attribute, and so let's copy this. Since it's class, we can use create a CSS selector dot, right? Let's get back to here. So we know that if there's a class name, we can use dot then the value of your class name, right? So value of our class name I found over here, search input, right? Let's copy this. So I'm going to write over here cy dot get, and then I will say single quote and then dot, right? And then the value of this class name, and then I would say then there is a function is to type something in a box, is called type function, and then you can whatever you want to type, say automation. Okay, so let's save it. Let's see what happened and then run it. So since you saved it, so let's save it. You can say save all or Control S. So let's run from there our test one. Let's see. Okay, it's went to the side, which is good. It should select. Here we go, it's selected radio 2. This is fine, but you can see the get element dot search input and type automation, it failed. So it means it didn't type anything over here. It means it's saying cy dot type can only be called a single element, your subject content. So you can see it's clearly telling you this type function can only be used in a single element. It means the CSS selector I'm using, like this one, you can see it's also highlighted. This line have issue, right? I'm using this CSS selector dot search dash input. It has a 2 result. It found 2 result. It means this CSS selector, the CSS class name has been used for another element also in the same page. So that's why it's your Cypress got confused, like which one you want to use me, and as well as maybe the other one is not a type option. So this one is a search, you can type, but maybe the other element is not a type option, right? So that time if you, that's why I told you a little bit earlier that if you have ID attribute and also a class or class name, I always prefer use ID other than class, because class attribute or properties have a chance to use multiple times in different element on the same page. So that time your script will get confused. So because your element have to be unique to identify the specific element or you want to select, right? So it's found 2. It's clearly telling you the problem. So how you can select uniquely your this one? In that case, I mean, you can still, it's possible. We can use Chrome, crop path, and we can traverse from, we can create our own also traverse from parent to child, and then select this element very uniquely. Regardless those options, you can use your test runner also to find any element very easily. How can you do this? So select this one, open selector. This is a selector playground. Click on that, so it select the whole page, and now the element you want to select, just go and select that page element. So this is the element you're selecting, and here you can see it's already give you the code, CUI get. So this is the locator of the code. It's traveling from probably grandparent to parent, then specifically child, so that it's uniquely select this one. All you have to just, and you can see this is a match, this element selector, CSS selector is match with the one element. So it's uniquely selecting one element, not more than one. So it's told also over here. So you can just copy this, go here, and then come to again here, instead of our own CSS selector, just paste it there, right? So CUI get, and then type whatever you want to type. Once again, if you are familiar, let me comment, if you're familiar with a Selenium, you can consider CY, it's like, you know, driver. CY, it's like a driver, and then get is like find element function, find element function, and inside the function you put your locator, same locator, then, you know, the other function to do the activities or action on that element, right? So this is the similarity you can find if you are familiar with CSS Selenium. If it's not, just you know, forget about that part, you know, get to used to with this Cypress command. So anyways, let's save it now and then run it again. Let's run it. So it's okay. Select radio 2, and also the other one also did. You can see over here the search box is being typed automation, and there is no problem over here. Okay, so that's the also the benefit for using you know, your test runner to identify any element uniquely, you know. So but again, you know, I always emphasize, you know, you better get to know how to write the CSS selector by your own. On the top you get the help from the other, you know, the automation tools like, you know, this one, test runner or Crowpath, or there is another, I saw there is another tools also available, the add-on on the browser. Okay, then, you know, it is gonna be help you to speed up and understand that. Okay, so pretty much that's the, you know, way we are going to find our element uniquely, and you know, those are the pretty you know, the good techniques. I think it's good enough for now to understand how you can, you know, so find your element uniquely. Thank you so much, and wait for the next video. You know, there's a lot to know, lot to go. There's a lot of stuffs coming up. Stay tuned. Thank you so much. Bye bye.